Want to know how I got 10 million views on Instagram in 1 month? Well, in this video, I'm going to walk you through my Instagram growth strategy and how you can start implementing it into your business right now and start growing, well, today. My name is Michelle Gifford. I'm a brand and marketing strategist. I help you grow on Instagram and beyond, and I'm excited that you're here because I'm diving deep, okay? We're showing you what has happened over the last month or two and the strategies I've employed in order to make it happen and what I'm doing to continue to make it happen. If you want support and guidance and more coaching on this, I have a coaching group. It's called Insta Money Makers. I would love for you to be a part of it, and you can get the link below. So let's dive into this. Back in November, I started creating content employing this Instagram growth formula, and I created some reels in November, and then in December, they started taking off. And that is actually something that we're seeing all over Instagram right now. Our content is lasting longer in the feed. So you can post something today and you might not gain any traction on it for weeks and weeks. And that's what I found with my content, is that I needed to create content ahead of when that content would be valuable. So if it's Valentine's Day, don't post something on Valentine's Day. Post it a couple weeks in advance, because then it's going to give some time for the algorithm to pick it up and to put it in front of the right people. So I noticed that what was happening is that I was talking a lot about a lot of different aspects of business. On Instagram, I talk about email marketing, I talk about Pinterest, I talk about all of these different things. And that is good. I actually teach that all the time. I teach that in Insta Money Makers. I am constantly teaching about how can you grow with social media, and then how to use that to grow long-term with email and Pinterest and blogging. And so I was teaching all different aspects on my account. And what I realized is that was a little bit confusing to the algorithm. And so I decided to niche down, because honestly, people talk to me about Instagram more than anything else. And it's usually the gateway to business. When someone is starting a business, they start out on Instagram. And then once they get into Instagram, then they can think about growing on other platforms. And so I've been toying with the idea of really doing Instagram focused, but it made me a little bit nervous, because I don't want to be only the Instagram girl, right? Because I have a marketing agency. We do much more than Instagram. I also believe that you shouldn't put all your eggs in the Instagram basket, and you need to diversify your platform. But what I decided is we were going to, number one, niche down my content to talk mainly about social media. And for me, that worked for me because that's what my audience was coming to me for anyway. So we started niching down and talking only about Instagram. This is a huge step in getting this many views. And the reason why is how Instagram works is that it is the search engine, and it is trying to figure out how to keep people on the app longer. And the best way to keep people on the app longer is to create content that they actually want to consume, so that they stay on the app longer, and then they feed that content to them so they stay on longer. And what that does for Instagram is that they can then charge for ads, right? You start seeing ads, well, people are paying for those. And so the longer you're on the app, the more ads they can sell and put in front of you, and then they make money and they make the app better. Instagram is a business, so that's just how it works. And so Instagram is constantly trying to figure out who you are as a creator. What kind of content do you create? And then who likes consuming that content? And they try to put them together so that you can get in front of people who want your content and you can grow your audience. So it's a win-win for everyone if we can really niche down and get a handle on who our niche is. That is why niching down is so important, because it helps the algorithm. It also helps your audience understand what you do, and it helps you create content faster and better, because you have a clear understanding of exactly who you're talking to. Now, the interesting thing about this is, like, I have been niched down for a really long time. I talk to women in business. That's who I talk to. But for me to grow, I had to get super niche and really choose like one thing I want to talk about, so that it was easier for the algorithm to understand what kind of content I create, so I can put my content in front of more people. The second thing I did is I started creating content for each phase of my customer journey. So when someone comes to follow you, they go through different stages before they buy. They don't usually just come, see one piece of content, and then purchase. The people who follow you are in a relationship with you, and relationships don't usually skip steps, right? And so there's the attraction phase where you bring people in. There's a nurture phase where you build a relationship of trust. You show that you're an expert. They start understanding who you are. And then number three, then we can sell to them. But if you just sell all the time, then you're probably going to lose followers. It's like you're watching a TV show and kids are like, what's a commercial? Like they don't understand. Now they do because they watch YouTube, but they didn't understand commercials and they wanted to just skip through them. And so if you show up on Instagram and all you're doing is selling, then they look at you like a commercial. And guess what? I blame TiVo. They're the ones who got rid of commercials for us at the beginning. And so we have to create content that gets people in, and then we can sell to them. And I spend a lot of my time in stories selling because those are my people, right? Those are my people who already trust me and know me and want to buy from me. And so I started creating content for each of those phases. And because I wanted to grow, I prioritized the attraction phase and the nurture phase. I didn't spend a lot of time selling in the content I create on my feed. I spent a huge portion of my time in attraction content. What kind of content is that? Well, that content is like reels. Reels are really good attraction content because they have its own algorithm, and the algorithm puts your content in front of people who don't follow you. I also started thinking about what things that people share really quickly, and I started creating more of that. And to know that, I went back to my analytics. I just looked at the reels and I saw the ones that were performing the best, that were getting the most views and engagement and the most shares and saves. And I created more of that content because that was content I'd already tested that had done really well and it gained traction before. And so I created more of that content. And then I focused on nurture, because what happens when someone comes to your feed? Let's say they see one of your reels, they want to know more about you. They come to your feed, they look at your bio, see if you're for them, and they look at your content to see if there's any value there. And so I started creating very valuable carousel posts as well, because I wanted to really nurture my audience. And also when someone came in that was new, I wanted them to see that attraction piece of content, come in, and then see in my feed that I had a lot of content that was highly valuable that they could use right now in their business. And so I prioritized those two over selling. And yes, again, I did the selling in my stories. I still sold my product. I still sold my coaching group, but it was with stories and in my email list. The next thing I did is when creating that attraction content, I told this to niche down. So I think of our niche like a jawbreaker. In the center, we have our like super niche people, right? These are people who are 100% like the person that we want to serve. But on the edges of our jawbreaker are people that maybe aren't completely our niche, but they fit into that and we can serve them. And I started creating content on the edges of my niche. So let's, for example, say that you do hand lettering and you teach people how to do hand lettering and you have those products. On the inside of your niche, in the very center, you would have people who want to learn hand lettering. But maybe on the edges, you have people who use hand lettering for mindfulness. Yes, they want it to be good. They want it to look pretty, but they're not as concerned as the people on the very center of your niche who really want to make hand lettering a huge priority. So maybe we create content about mindfulness and hand lettering, because that would be like on the edges of your niche. And as I started doing this more and more, it became a really great attraction piece for me. Of course, I don't do hand lettering, but I started doing audios that people could use. I also started doing some transitions people could use for reels, so that it made it easy for my audience who wants to know more about Instagram for them to create content. And that was on the outside of my niche, not the very center, but the outside. When I started doing that, I started to grow more and see more reels get more traction. Next is I stayed consistent and analyzed my data along the way. Listen, most reels don't just go viral the first time you post something. And if they do, it's probably for the wrong reasons. And so you need to create a consistent posting schedule that you can stick to, that takes in consideration the attraction, the nurture, and the sell phase. And then look at your Instagram insights and see what kind of posts are working for you, which ones are gaining more followers. Do you know on your carousel post, you can scroll to the bottom and see how many followers you got from that post? That's really helpful, right? Because you can see which ones are actually working the best to gain new followers. Then you could create more of those. Unfortunately, you can't do that with reels yet, but hopefully that's in the works. And then once I was consistent and I analyzed, then I adjusted. I saw which ones were working, which one were not, and I started adding in more of the ones that were working. Now listen, this strategy is something that can help you grow on Instagram if you employ it correctly. Niche down your content, get super niche. Create content for each phase of the relationship with your audience, which is attract, nurture, and sell, and prioritize attraction and nurture content. And when you're creating this, make sure that you're creating content on the edges of your niche, and then stay consistent, analyze, and adjust as you go. You can totally grow on Instagram. Remember, if you need help, we would love for you to join Instant Money Makers, which is my coaching group where you get your content plan as well as audios and prompts for you to do on stories and posts. Thank you so much for joining me, and make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.